Thank you for tuning in to the Miss Esquire Podcast. My name is Rahysa Vargas, and I'm the founder of Miss Esquire.
I'm Trisha Widowfield. I'm the Vice President of Miss Esquire, and I'm your co-host.
And we have an incredible episode for you today that we can't wait for you to listen to. But first, we want to thank our two incredible sponsors that make this all possible. First one is Littler, which is the largest employment law firm in the world.
We also have Professional Interpreting Associates, which provides interpreting and translation services for all business professionals. I am so honored and excited to have our guest, Eugene Pettis. He's my boss, my mentor, my friend for the past 20 years. And as many of you know, he was the first African-American bar president.
It's a pleasure to be here.
We're excited to have you today. It's an honor to have you, to be quite honest with you. I was like, wow, we get to interview Mr. Pettis today. So I'm excited. But first, I'm going to start with, a lot of people think the overnight success is actually a reality. But in truth, the overnight success takes over 20 years. So tell me a little bit about what you think was the most instrumental moment in your life or thing that got you to where you are today.
I think even as a young lawyer, my recipe was to get engaged. At a very young age, I went to the Florida Bar and said, I want to be involved. Not the Florida Bar, it was the Broward County Bar Association. And I think that's the start of foundation that I set. One of being involved in the community, being involved in the bar. And people see that and they see your work and your reliability and your vision and all those things. And you get called for other opportunities. But my seeds probably were really sowed even earlier at the University of Florida, where I've gotten networking opportunities because of who I established relationships there. So it's carried over from my undergraduate into my profession, and it's all about relationships, and I built those through getting engaged.
I love it. And I think one of the things that I know about your history and your background is you had to make a lot of those relationships yourself. Like they weren't just given to you, and you had to open those doors. So tell me a little bit about how you got involved and engaged. Like how did you make those doors or opportunities, and how did you network with the right people at school?
I speak to a lot of young people over the almost 40 years of practice now, and you have to be bold. I always tell people that if you don't ask, you're not going to get.
Right.
And if you ask and they say no, you leave with exactly what you came with. So it's really a no-lose proposition. More times than not, if you ask people for would you like to have coffee, can we have lunch, after work drink, most people will say yes and fit it in. Even as a young lawyer, I found the answer to typically be yes. And the more comfortable you get seeking that which you desire, I think the better you get at it. I built a practice of asking, from the first client that I ever got back in 1992. We had just left Conrad, Shear & James. Okay. After 6 years, I was there for 6 years. And I sat at my office, didn't have any clients, and I said I wanted clients. I didn't want to keep working on the firm's clients. Right. I wanted my own clients. And I thought of who can it ask? And it was William Dandy, who happened to be the deputy superintendent. I knew him from growing up in Fort Lauderdale, but we didn't know each other. He knew my family, and I called him up and said, Mr. Dandy, I've just left Conrad, Shear & James. I know what I'm doing, and I love to represent the school board of Broward County. And he said, Pettis, he said, come on. And he talked, that's just how he talked. He had a deep voice. He said, Pettis, how you been doing? How's the family? And he said, come on by. When do you want to come by? I said, I'm headed to Palm Beach, but I'll be back by 2:00. I went and said, Mr. Dandy, I've been working for 6 years at Conrad, Shear & James. I have a great experience. I know what I'm doing. And he said, hold on a second. He picked up his phone and said, Judy, I'm sending over a friend. Take care of him, okay? I said, who is Judy? Where do I go meet Judy? And I met with Judy Hunt. And the rest was history. I mean, it was just that moment where God had guided my steps to meet her, and she was looking for somebody, as she said, to break up the old boys network. And I walk in. We talked for 2 hours that day. And I represented the school district on the biggest cases they've ever had, including, unfortunately, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shootings. That's just an example of stepping out, thinking, who can I connect with? Starbucks that Trish worked with me on I was at an event and somebody was at the table. I said, hello, I'm Eugene Pettis. Who are you? Mm-hmm. She said, I'm Denise Brown. Right. Where are you from? Fort Lauderdale. I said, I'm from Fort Lauderdale. I said, let's do lunch. 2 weeks later, we made the connection. A couple of weeks later, we had Starbucks cases.
Yeah.
And the relationships like that go on and on. So I encourage people to not, lawyers, young lawyers, to not be shy.
Right.
Sit back, think about, read. I got Darden Restaurants, the biggest franchisor in the country, by looking at a magazine, and I saw who the general counsel was. She was a Black female. I didn't know her. She was going to be in Miami, and something happened. I couldn't meet her in Miami with my schedule, and I put something out to a friend who in the National Bar Association, who I knew everybody, and I said to him, I said, "Do you know this individual?" He said, "Yeah, let me connect you." And in no time, even though we had an Orlando office, she said, "Next time you're in Orlando, come by." And I made myself available to get by there in the next week or two. Boom. I started doing Darden's work. So those are just examples of the boldness, of the confidence that I try to tell others. You have it. You just have to release it and not be shy. And if you do that, I think you'll have great success.
I love it. I wish you would have been my mentor. My mentor was my dad. So he's not in the legal profession, but he was homeless. And he's like, there's nothing that you cannot do if you're the hardest working person that walks into a room. And I remember when I first started at Kelly Cronenberg, I was a baby attorney 6 months in. And I was like, I really want to land a big client. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know how to practice. But I was like, Sabadell's in our building. I'm going to go crash their party. And I did. I went and I got a meeting with the vice president of Sabadell Bank at the time. And I told our managing partner, I was like, you need to come with me because I don't know what we're going to do. Right. And so he was like, how did you get this meeting? I was like, I crashed their party. He's like, oh.
Funny story. That's how I got hired at Alex Pettis and Schwab. Yeah, I was at a Christmas party my first year of law school. So I've been there since I was a 1L.
I know that. I know.
But yes, it was the Christmas party I got hired.
That's awesome. And she absolutely loves you guys because it's hard to retain people, but it's when you have great people that are mentoring you. I think that's part of the trick. So obviously, one of the biggest things in your life, I don't know personally, I think in career-wise, is that obviously you were the first African-American Florida bar president, which is incredible. What did that moment mean to you personally and professionally?
It was an accomplishment, obviously, so personally, but I think what I took from it personally was an opportunity to bring to life some things that I thought we were missing in the profession. So while I was happy to be there, my happiness was I was on that stage.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get on the stage and that's all they want to do, get on the stage. When I get on the stage, I have something I want to do.
Right.
I want to make it better than I received it. So I was really happy to bring a fresh vision. I think the bar can get a little, stale.
Right. Yes.
I thought there were certain things that needed a little freshening up, and we had been doing some things, and I didn't see the results. And I thought it's time to do some things differently. And that was my whole platform as bar president in 2013 to 2014. Diversity was something that was very important. I thought there were not enough women on the board of governors, and I was the only, when I first got on, I was the only African-American lawyer. I don't think it was representative of who we are as a bar in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So when you're the president, mine was unique because I really had about a 2.5 year run of leadership. I was being the first when I was unopposed on December 15th. Immediately, I started getting requests for speaking engagements, et cetera, a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
So it gave me a chance, even during what we call that first 6 months before you're sworn in as president-elect, we're president-designate. I had probably 4 or 5 speeches during that 6-month period. Again, putting out my platform, setting the messages and the tone that I wanted to build upon in the next 2 years. Then when I was elect year, that's the year that after asking President Gwen Young, did you have anything you need me to assist? And she did not. I started getting my year ready, which was the year I got the Leadership Academy organized and created from scratch. And I was determined to have those fellows to stand up on the day I got sworn in. And it was a heavy load. It was a big push, but I was determined.
Yeah, I love that. Did you ever feel like, I don't know, when you got sworn in, you're like, it's a proud moment, but also like this should have happened earlier?
Oh, absolutely. If you go back to my bar speech, I just happened to be the first. I'm not the first qualified person. There was some greatness of African-American lawyers. James Weldon Johnson, who composed the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Oh. He was in 1896. There was 116 years between him being the first person of color, first African-American to be passed the bar and be accepted in the bar, and my swearing in June of 2013. Wow. There were brilliant people in the bar, but we lived in a segregated time, a segregated state. A lot of the black bars that we have today were because they couldn't get into the White Bar Association, so they had to mingle and with themselves. And it was shockingly not that long before my career started that doors were opening up. Way too late, but in the midst of that, there were a lot of people that were just brilliant lawyers that were changing the world but couldn't do it within the bar. So my whole speech was, I stood on some shoulders of great men and women. Right. Bernice Gaines was the first woman, press woman lawyer in the state of Florida. We don't know anything about her. They just named the Black Women's Bar Association after her in the last year or two. But you go around and the history is rich and it's well established. And I spoke very deep from my heart that I'm just the one who the baton was passed to, but the race was run way before I started practicing law.
Yeah. And not going back 116 years, but even whenever you graduated, I mean, you saw the landscape back, was it the 80s?
Way in the 1980s.
Back in the 80s, the landscape of the legal community was different. I mean, just tell us about your experience when you were coming out and looking for a job.
Oh, it was totally different. The young folks today wouldn't believe it, but I've had all sorts of experiences personally. The big firms were not hiring. There were a couple of exceptions. At Holland and Knight down in Miami, they had 3 African-American lawyers. There was Henry Latimer, was with Fine, Jacobson, Schwartz, and Nash out of Miami. Fort Lauderdale had not had one. I interviewed with firms that the people that set the interviews up were crying when I didn't get selected. The question would always be, and I interviewed with all big firms, my classmates said, why are you wasting your time? And I didn't feel I was wasting my time. I liked the challenge and I felt I was worthy. And I would get the interview, I would get past the interview, I'd get invited to the law firm, and it'll always be, you're gonna be our first Black lawyer. How do you feel? And I said, I'm beyond that. I went to the University of Florida. I think you should ask, how do you feel? Right. I didn't get those jobs.
But could ask the question though, right?
That was the question. And when I got the job at Conrad, Shear and James, it was just where I was supposed to be. I'm born and raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they were in Fort Lauderdale, a very prominent defense firm at that time. And Rex Conrad, Gordon James, and my partner, Jim Halixer, Jim was an associate they brought to the Tower Club. To interview me, and they said, well, what's your GPA and all of this stuff? I said, look, whether you hire me or not, I'm going to be a successful lawyer.
I love that.
And they called me like a couple hours later, and the next time I spoke to Gordon James, he said, Gene, when you said that, I believed you. And I believed it. You know, it's way more to success than your GPA or what did you get on your bar, your LSAT score. I've passed so many of those people that had better scores than me early in my career. So you have to look beyond those types of statistics and look who has the grit. Look who's going to work hard. Yeah. Look who is dedicated to the job. And those are factors that I think are more telling who's going to be successful.
I love it.
You can't replace drive and you can't replace work ethic.
Absolutely.
100%. Obviously, you're extremely inspiring, and I love that we get the opportunity to share a little bit about you in this 45-minute clip. But tell me who inspired you growing up? Who was your biggest inspiration?
I had a lot of inspiration, but it started at home. My mom and dad, I'm the youngest of 7 children.
Wow.
I had excellence before me. All my siblings on a very menial pay that they received as Mom worked on the beach during the season as a housekeeper. Dad was a waiter initially at a big restaurant, Polly Davis Cafeteria back in the day. He went on over to the Postal Service, and Mom went to the school system as a teacher assistant. But the lessons they gave us were beyond what money could purchase. And they inspired in me that I could do anything if I trust in God and gave my best effort. All things are possible. And I can hear her telling me that over and over. All things are possible if you only believe. So I grew up with an inspiration and a belief. Back in those days, I often talk about when I was bar president, who was your mentor? I was touched by so many people. I couldn't name one. Some of them are people that stayed in my life for years. I stayed connected to this day with men that were mentors to me, and teachers, our coaches, our parents that I connected with of my classmates. They're at the age now, they're in the mid to late 80s, and several of them have passed by, but I was connected to each of them to the last moment. And I believe there have been what I call angels in my life that have touched my life. Sometimes people in your life for a long period of time. Other times they may just give you a gentle touch. I was headed to Bethune-Cookman College, an excellent HBCU. That's the only school that I was going to. I don't know how I picked that one because it was literally right across the street from my aunt's house. She could probably yell across the street and say, "What am I doing?" So I went to a girlfriend's house, and University of Florida offered me a academic waiver scholarship, and I said no. So I go over to my girlfriend's house, and she had told her cousin, he was a dental student at the University of Florida, and he said, "I understand you have a scholarship at Florida, and you don't want to go. Why?" I said, "Not enough black students." He said, "How many black students do you need?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "There are 1,800. And that kind of stuck in my mind. I don't know 1,800 black folks. So he said, "What's your other reason?" I said, "Campus is too big." He said, "Every day you're on the campus, you're making a mistake. It gets smaller." And he said, "I think you're making a mistake." And I went home that night and said, "Mom, I want to go to the University of Florida." She said, "You have to see if the scholarship's available." I went to school Monday morning and asked Mr. Gilliard, "I want to go to the University of Florida." He said, "I have to call Mr. Boatwright." He called Mr. Boatwright and came in my room and said, he said, come up to the school. It was so close to me starting at Bethune-Cookman until a friend of mine went on to Bethune-Cookman and said, "Gene, I tell them you're not coming, they keep calling you absent." It was like within 4 weeks I made that pivot. It was where I was supposed to be. I mean, it was where I was supposed to be. I got quickly engaged in the University of Florida, student government, president of Black Student Union as a freshman in my freshman year. And I blossomed at UF.
Yeah. It was like God ordained it for you, and it was like no one was going to take away. I love that.
I don't know the gentleman's name. I've never talked to him again, but that 30 seconds changed my life.
That's great.
And it's hard with such a big university to stick out, and obviously you did. Same with the over 100,000 lawyers here. So I mean, what words of wisdom would you give to younger people of how to establish yourself, how to individualize yourself, and make yourself special, I guess?
The old Gandhi quote, which is one of my favorites: "Be the change you want to see in the world."
Right.
When I became president of the Black Student Union in 1970, it was in 79.
You weren't born.
Be quiet.
In 1970, she's telling me I'm old. She's correct. In 1979, I went to talk to Art Sandine. He was a senior vice president of student affairs. Never met the guy in my life. I said, "Dr. Sandine, I'm Eugene Pettis. I'm the president of the Black Student Union. I need your support. I have an idea." He said, "What is it?" I said, "I want to do the Get Involved campaign. I want to bring out all the organizations because the Black students there was two different worlds, Black and white.
Yeah.
And there was no commingling, if you will. So he said, "I think it's a great idea." He facilitated bringing out all these organizations. I encourage all the Black students to get in the organizations. And it changed the landscape of the University of Florida as a freshman. I went on and first African-American student body treasurer. When they came to ask me would I be the treasurer, I said, "I need 5 Senate seats and an ASFAC, which is accounting board for the student government. They said, well, we can't do that. I said, I didn't come ask you. You asked me. And they gave me my 5 seats. Nice. And I picked Ava Parker, who's the president of Palm Beach State College right now. Julia Johnson, who was the chairman under Governor Jeb Bush for the Public Service Commission. Pam Holmes, and it was stars. I picked 3 out of the 5 were females, and yes. They broke through barriers and changed the landscape. So again, one of my common threads is when I'm blessed to be in a position, I don't see it as something for my resume. I see it for opening up the doors for others.
That's so great. That's so powerful.
Tell us about the Leadership Academy and how you started it, what the vision was. I mean, we have some of our colleagues from Miss Esquire who were alumni of the Leadership Academy. Yeah. So how did that come about?
It was a humble Sunday. I went to church. I sat on my couch, and the vision came to my mind. And I picked up a piece of paper and I started drawing it. I started drawing, getting the sections involved, the sections of the bar. There were 21 of them at the time. And I had been to about 5 diversity summits. That's what they used to do. Once a year, they would have a day of diversity summit. And from my perspective, I didn't see anything happening in the other 364 days. They would do it again. And I just said, this ain't the way to do it. I could do this better. Right. So I put it on paper. There was a young lady, Renee Thompson, who I worked with on Scott Hawkins' commission. Many presidents have a commission. All of them don't. But I had this vision, and I moved the bar at a speed they've never been moved. They would literally say, we don't move this fast. And I would say, why not? I was up in Tallahassee on a weekly basis, making sure that the deliverables were coming. Right. Because as I said earlier, I wanted to make sure when I got sworn in, they stood up. And sometimes you have to push and take people at a speed and a place they've never been. And I think that's what I did for the bar. I had names I'll keep to myself that said it will never work. That just fused me even more. Right. Because when God has given you a vision, Amen. I think that you just have to trust it and move forward. And I wasn't stopping. It was going to happen. I never had a doubt that it would happen. And some opposition was there, and I was driving to Jacksonville for a speech. And William Reese Smith died a few days earlier. So I called Jack Harkness, who was the executive director of the bar. And I said, Jack, I have an idea. I want to name the Leadership Academy the William Reese Smith. He was a great public servant and lawyer. He was the president of the Florida Bar, the American Bar, and the International Bar. Wow. One of few people to do that. And when I named it the William Reese Smith, the doors flew open and some of the opposition was no longer there. And my vision was to build a bridge that people of all sorts of, all of our communities, every community, and by that I mean I met with Asian Bar Association, the Hispanic Bars Association, Hispanic Bar and the Black Bar Associations were the minorities, where there were so many other people out there that were lawyers that were left out. And I wanted to make sure that and I was intentional of telling them who I wanted selections of people from every possible corner of our practice. And they did. And it's the only thing that I keep my fingers on 13 years later to make sure it keeps its true meaning and that somebody don't take it in a different direction, because I can't tell you the number of females, starting with females, that are white and black and Hispanic, you name it, that have sent me emails saying, I couldn't have been a judge. I would have not made it to my judgeship if it wasn't for you giving me confidence that I could do it. Just you name it. I've heard it everywhere I go. I was in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. People come up to me, I was in Leadership Academy 1. I was in Leadership Academy this. So, they're so excited about it, which make my heart warm, that it gave so many of the 350 fellows the confidence they belong. learn how to network, learn how to present themselves, and they can do it. And that's what it was all about.
I remember when you became the bar president and you said, I'm not having meetings just to have meetings.
That's still, I said that recently. I had a Black Men to Men Summit 2 Saturdays ago. And I said, I don't do anything right now just to do it. Days are too short. Life is too short. I don't go any place that I don't hope to make a difference and come out better than I went in. So I'm committed to
I love that.
You just said something that touched on something I wanted to ask you a little bit later, but I'm going to ask it now. So time is our most valuable asset. How did you learn that? And did it come at a later time in your career than it should have?
You know, I've always been really involved. I was really involved in high school. I was the president of this, the president of that, the basketball captain my junior and senior year. So I've always been able to manage time, and I've always been too interested in getting engaged engaged beyond just, I couldn't just go and do billable hours back in the day, go home and that's it. I want to have an impact. I want to be that change. Why not me?
Yeah.
And I've always been blessed with the belief that I can inspire people to come along with me. Some people are conveners, some people are workers.
Yeah.
You need both to be successful.
Sure.
I can convene people. I can move the forces in a different direction. So I've just always had that belief in myself.
Yeah.
And time is, but you can do it all. You can do more. I was determined because my dad was not as involved in my growing up as I wanted to. Mom drove all around Fort Lauderdale to be at every basketball game I was at. Dad did not. So I was determined to be that father who was ever present. Every school meeting I would be there. They were in sports, basketball, softball, soccer. And I just went and became the coach of all of those because I was the guy yelling on the sideline. So I wanted to at least have a T-shirt on so I don't look so silly.
Right.
So soccer, I went and got a soccer clinic and learned how to the rules of soccer. It didn't hurt my practice of law. You just make it happen. You do what you have to do.
It's funny because Rahysa and I say this almost on a weekly, if not daily basis of this takes so much time, effort, and energy, the Miss Esquire part. And sometimes, we're both driving to work and we're like, why don't we just practice law? But, it's just not,
it's not in the cards for us.
And you'll look back at the end of your career. It's not going to be how much money did I make?
100%.
It's going to be what impact did you have? What clients did you help?
Right.
What did you do for the community? And I'm a full believer that the law practice is unique from any profession. In our creed of professionalism, that's very little known about it. Look it up, the creed of professionalism for the Florida Bar. The second item is do public good. Mm-hmm. And I did a whole series of speeches on do public good. That's who we are. That's leadership at whatever place, HOA, church, community, run for an office, judgeship. Be leaders. We are uniquely qualified and trained to be advocates for the better of the society.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned I think a lot of times people are like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you have so much time? I'm like, you and I have the same amount of 24 hours. Newsflash. The only difference is I truly believe that you can make time for everything that's important to you, right? Like, and that's where you find the time. Like this year, I was like, I need to find time to work out. I'm like the room mom also for my kid. I have 3 kids, so it's definitely difficult. But I think if you're passionate about it, you're motivated because you have to be motivated. Oftentimes, we find people that are like, we want to start groups. I'm like, unless you love and that is your call, your purpose, don't start it to start it. Do something that you're going to be passionate about. Otherwise, it won't work because you're going to be exhausted and you're going to lose esteem. But I think it's important, like, for people to know you can't do it all. Yeah. It's just going to cost some sacrifice. And I'm sure for you is a lot of sleepless nights. For me, it's definitely a lot of people would be sleeping over here 8 to 10 hours. I'm happy if I got 4, to be honest with you. So
at the end of the day, though, don't get into it if you're not willing to carry the torch.
Of course.
Amazing.
Sometimes people don't show up,
right?
And you have to be the bottle washer and everything else to get it done.
It's true.
And I've always willing to do it. But you're right. You have to be passionate about it. And if you're passionate, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
I don't get stressed by it.
Exactly. This is not even on our cards, but I just was wondering, how proud were your parents to see like your success?
Mom was alive when I got elected as president of the bar.
I love that.
Dad had passed away some years earlier. She was not here when I got sworn in. But there was no question that her presence was felt in the room. And I've had a blessed run. And she, Mom and Dad were a big part of that. In 1985, I started practice in 1985, May 1st. I was called in by Rex Conrad to start a trial on May 1st for 3 weeks. My first 3 weeks of practicing law, I was in a brain damaged baby case.
Oh, you're very fortunate.
And there were partners in the office that, how did he do that? We've been here waiting and we've never had a trial with Rex. But it was a unique relationship that we fostered for many years until Rex's passing. It was about Mom, and Mom had always encouraged me, and she saw that to fulfillment. I wish she could have been there on that day.
Yeah.
That's a part of my speech as well, that the amazing woman that she was made everything possible for me. She really did. And Dad was a provider. Mom was that nurturer, that person that took care of everything else. And as you all know, as a mother, and there's a lot in a family. You have 3. She had 7.
Wow.
I
wish
and
I
I'm
would
the
have
last
met her.
of them, so she hadn't tired out by the time I came along. I teased my brother that I was the last one because she said, "This is who I've been waiting for.
Perfection.
This is who I've been waiting for." And he says it's the opposite.
That's so funny. She was like, I'm done.
It is finished.
Yes,
It is finished.
it is good. No, I think that's great, because I think one of the things we both come from like very humble beginnings. So my dad was homeless and he worked super hard in this country. And I was wondering that, like, as you were speaking, because one of the things we owe everything to our families, and like, they instilled so much hard work. But I think I meet so many attorneys that even when I was in law school, that they felt like the only opportunities would come if you already came from that kind of world and sphere, which is not true. I think you've broken a lot of barriers for sure, which is amazing. What do you think has been the biggest strides the legal profession has made in diversity and inclusion since you became, after you became Florida Bar president?
I think that one of the things that I had a task force. I did it in the last 6 months of diversity of the bench.
Okay.
I went and met with then Governor Scott and said that diversity there were counties, Volusia County, no Black judges in Volusia County. During the earlier years of the 70s, late 60s, 70s, there was a big push to diversify the bench, but a lot of those people were retiring. Mm-hmm. So we were not replacing them, and there were counties across the state that were no representation. And I found that to be totally unacceptable in one of the most diverse states in the union. So I started looking at not at who he's going to appoint. I started looking at the JNCs, Judicial Nominating Commissions, who are setting the slate. And if those are not diverse, you may not get the representation you're looking for. So he said, well, we don't have, people are not applying. I said to Jack Harkness, I said, do I have the power to extend the deadline? We were getting ready to have a huge appointment of Judicial Nominating Commission individuals. And Jack said, you can put it whenever you want. I pushed it back 6 weeks. It went from 180 till 700 individuals.
Wow.
I crossed the state. I went to every organization, said, encourage your members to apply. Made calls to people, and they would say, well, I tried it before. It's not going to work. Put your name in. And he appointed a lot. I went back and met with him again and said, we last spoke, you said it was not enough people applying. You now have a pool of 700, some excellent people of color. And he appointed some. So that was a good direction for the bar. Yeah. That was a good direction, because you don't get to pick the judge. A white person don't have to have a white judge. A black person doesn't have an entitlement to a black judge. But knowing there's diversity in the court gives you some comfort that you're not there alone. And that was a big positive. I'm concerned now with the bar and the ultra-conservative impact that it's having in society in general and on our bar.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any harm for inclusion. I think there's richness in inclusion. I think we all benefit from inclusion.
Right.
And personally, I think that it's just forces that don't want minorities of women and others engaged. This bar practice was an all-white male sport for a long, long time. And that it ain't that anymore. And a lot of people have a hard time dealing with that.
Right.
And one of the way to do it is we're not talking about diversity. We're not going to talk about inclusion. Well, those are things we can avoid.
Right.
Call it whatever you want. I really, when I was coming through, it wasn't DEI. Somehow that became demonized.
Right.
Right.
And DEI, white women benefited from that more than any other subgroup. But they put a black face on it and demonize it. It wasn't there when I was coming through. Call it doing the right thing.
Right.
Let's do the right thing. Call it whatever you want. And if you do that, we'll all be better as a bar and as individuals and as a community, because there's richness in learning about other people, learning about other cultures. And we get scared of that. But I think we miss an opportunity. And I think we're going through a season right now that we're missing. We're going to miss some things until we can turn it back around and bring the community back together. Because I've always said the greatest of humanity is when we stand as one.
I love it. So true. I think Trisha and I, we did our first episode recently with Patricia, and I think with Patricia Flanagan. And I think there was
She's an immigration attorney.
And we were speaking about, there's a lot of things. Obviously, we've been practicing for a long time. And there's a lot of things you don't know until you meet somebody that's gone through it, right? And even in that episode, she's like, I had no idea, So I think it's, to your point, it's beautiful to be in a community where we have so many people that are diverse and that bring so many different other values and cultures and thoughts and different ideas, because it truly becomes a melting pot of everybody together, and we can reach so many more people. One of the things I didn't like this recently in the Florida bar, they send out the magazine, and we have the new Florida bar president, which we're really excited. We hope we can meet.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was really interesting, no disrespect to their firm, because they have a fantastic firm, but looking at the photo, it was pretty evident that she was the only African-American woman in the entire firm. And it just made me think, there are a lot of other incredible African-Americans. It's a pretty big firm. And when they took the picture, I was like, I wish they would have not taken this picture of all of them together, because it's so obvious. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's she's the only woman and she's the only African. I think it's amazing that she became the first African-American woman to become the Florida Bar president, but it's also kind of we're still behind.
We're behind, no question. And we're behind. Even when you look at the numbers that there may be more in certain larger firms, they don't stay long. The culture is not there. The network, the support is not there. Right. My daughter, Chanel, who is a lawyer up in Orlando, she was with 2 litigation firms, and it's lonely. It's lonely sometimes being a minority, a woman, a Black woman is even more challenging. And she went through some things in her early years that I thought were gone long time ago. But you have to be intentional in changing that face of our profession. Otherwise, people like having the restaurants to go to, different cultures. They want the music of different cultures, but they don't want the boardroom or the firm to be of different cultures. Right. And to be complete and whole, I believe that when you put everybody around a table, the results are better. I have no doubt that it's better.
Yeah. Now, as we've been talking, maybe you've already accomplished it, but what is the legacy that you want to leave behind in your legal profession?
When I was building the Leadership Academy, I said, do I have your support? They said, well, Gene, they say you're doing this for your legacy. The legacy question had never come to my mind. I was doing it because it was needed to be done. Right. And not to sound too trite, but I just want to keep running. I do a lot of things. I just had a Black Men to Men Alliance Summit of 150 men, not this Saturday, a week ago Saturday. That was just very moving. I believe that demographic, we have to do better. And I have a whole lot going on there. I'm the chair of the social action committee for Sigma Pi Phi, which we call the Boule. And just this morning, I was on the telephone with one of the principals at William Dandy, who I spoke to get the school board work. They named the school after him. And I was speaking to Mrs. Williams. I'm starting a mentorship program in Miami-Dade at Brownsville Middle School and at William Dandy Middle School. Again, I have visions, and I carry the visions out. I'm blessed to have in each of those affairs good people working with me. I keep it going in the right direction, but I'm not doing all the work. But those things, if they turn out to be my legacy, I truly want the world to be better because I lived. When I take that last breath, I would have done the best I could to make this a better place. If that's my legacy, I'll accept it.
Yeah.
So you're going on 40 years.
40 years.
If you would have to go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, just one, what would it be?
Good question.
I don't know, because he crushed it. So he's like,
I know, right? He's like, I've already got it.
40 years ago, I was, he killed it. I don't know that you need to give him some any advice. I've had all over again.
I've had I had a girlfriend way back in college, and she said, nothing bad has ever happened to you. She's just, she was saying like doors have flown open for me. Yeah. But I'm a believer and I'm a man of faith, and I believe that when you have done well in the opportunity that you've been given, more opportunities will come.
It's true.
And back in 91, they came and asked me to be on the South Florida Water Management District. I didn't know what the South Florida Water Management District was, but that was Dean Sanders, a friend of mine from University of Florida, who was the chief of staff for Lawton Childs. And I said, when do you need to know? He said, I need to know today. So I'm in Chicago getting ready to head home. And I called up Sylvia Portier, who was a county commissioner, and Bob Heapner, who was a land use lawyer, and two people I knew in that space. I said, should I? And Sylvia said, absolutely. It's a very powerful regional board from Orlando all the way down to the Keys. So when I got appointed in 91, I was the first minority of any type and the youngest. I was 31 years old.
Wow.
So I got in there. But again, I don't go into any place that I'm not going to change it for the better.
Right.
I looked at, we're giving hundreds of millions of dollars away to all white guys. No women, no people of color. And I fought that battle and convinced good people that just didn't have that vision. They don't even recognize what they're doing, that we have an obligation to be more open. And that's just been my journey. And will forever be my journey. I just got selected. I'm in the American College of Trial Lawyers. And I've been there since 2007. It's a very, very highly regarded, invitation-only college. And they came to me in 21 asking me would I be a regent, which is 7 regents in the country. I was going through my treatment for cancer at that time. I said, no, I'm dealing with cancer. And they came back a month ago and said, will you serve? And they went through all the interviews and said, we want you to do it. So I've accepted that task. So I don't know where I'm going to get the hours.
Congratulations.
I'm going to have to borrow some from Trisha or somebody. She doesn't have any, so I'm going to have to get some from Jim or Ken or somebody.
That's right.
But again, it all work out.
Yeah.
The assignment is to go there and do some more good. And I've been involved before, but I'll have the state of Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. And everybody that comes through into the college from those states will come through, my office is the regent for those states.
I'm sorry, were you going to ask another question? Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, you're extremely humble, but let me say, like, your legacy has been the amount of people that you've impacted, even from far away. Like, I'm always like, it's so amazing that you work for Eugene Pettis, but I mean, you've broken so many barriers. And I think long after you're gone, one of the things, like, you're sitting on the heels of somebody that, also broke barriers for us. But I'm just grateful that we had the opportunity to, like, even interview you, because I think it's inspiring to see people do it. Oftentimes people think they can't make a change, right? Like, they think they can't be the first ones to start something and create a ripple effect. But because of the impact that you do, and what I love is, like, you're 40 years into practice and you're still saying yes, right? Like, there's still change that needs to be done. And that's incredible because oftentimes people are like, I think I'm done. I did what I needed to do, right? But for you, it's like, there's still things that can be done. We still can see it better, right? Like we can still see an improvement. And I think that's what's important. Like Trisha and I, when we started this, we were like, there's a gap that needs to be filled, but we're grateful to be surrounded. I mean, she's really lucky to have a mentor like you in her own firm that's like paved the way for so many people, I mean, recently I just saw that there's only 3% of Latino attorneys that are Latino women in the whole entire United States. I'm like, crazy. What an honor it is to be a part of that 3%, but like, we're just getting started, right? Like we haven't seen, there's so much to be seen still of what can come for like this demographic. And I think it's important to see people like you, Paven, it's part of your legacy. So whether you know it or not, there's a lot of things you left. But I'm really grateful that we've had the opportunity to even get to know a little piece of your history. And I know your mom is extremely proud. And what I love is I truly believe, I know you're a person of faith because you mentioned it, so I feel like I can say it. But I mean, God like definitely designed a specific purpose in your life and you have truly fulfilled it. So
I believe that. Somebody told me Sunday. Oh, it was just yesterday. I was up in Palm Beach, so I went to my wife's church, smaller church, and Pastor Lofton came up and he said, "How you feeling?" I said, "I feel great." And he said, I think often God had more for you to do. Yeah. That's why he put you through your stage 4 cancer. And I believe that, as and Trisha's probably heard this, but when I got that diagnosis, shocking diagnosis, I'm in a room at Mercy Hospital, and the Dr. Temple says, you have a very large cancerous tumor. And I felt calm, and I heard God's voice clearer than I've ever heard it in my life. He said, you will be healed, but I want you to be evidence of my healing power on this earth. Wow. I never felt that I was going to die. And, I ask him to guide my steps to do that which he wants me to do with the days that I have left.
Oh, that's beautiful. I know, right? We're each going to cry during this episode. I would be doing a disservice if I didn't thank you and didn't thank the firm for your support of me, of Miss Esquire.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, you've allowed me to have the flexibility to really grow this, and I really appreciate it.
Well, y'all have done a great job, a dynamic duo here of growing it, and I'm proud of you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having us. And where can they find you? I don't know if either one of you.
They can find him through me.
Just like send all the referrals to Trisha. Yeah, talk about your firm.
So Esquire, Pettis, and Schwam, although during the first part of the episode you were talking about defense, we are now a fully plaintiff firm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we've been plaintiff. We've done plaintiff work for 20 years. Yeah. We represented HCA and did plaintiff's work. But in 2017, we went all plaintiff's work, and I wish I'd done it 20 years earlier. Right. When I came from Conrad, Shear, and James, I had a chance to go to Lotto and Ryder up in Palm Beach, or Grossman and Roth here in Miami. Wow. Yeah. And I committed to the other 6 guys to build a firm. So I stayed with that commitment, but I love the plaintiff side. Right. It gives us an opportunity to have a real impact on real people versus corporate bottom lines.
Yeah, what you guys do is absolutely beautiful. I mean, you're changing we can't bring people back, but like changing the circumstance forever. So I think it's incredible to be able to impact. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So your firm, you want to say the firm?
Esquire, Pettis, and Schwam. Yeah. We can be found at hpslegal.com, and it's all medical malpractice and catastrophic injury. Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for being
here today.
Thank
you for the opportunity.
Thank you for watching this episode of Miss Esquire. Please like and subscribe and comment below if you want more episodes like this. And if you want more information about joining Miss Esquire or any of our in-person networks, all you have to do is email us at admin@missesquire.com for more information.
And until we see you on the next episode, we hope you grow your network and your net worth.